now we'd like to present you a little fireside chat between William Bobin, whom you've just heard of, and Dario Di Iorio, Senior Investment Manager at Quadrivio Silver Economy Fund, a private equity active in the space. Thank you. Sit down. Oh no, you can sit down.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No worries. All right. Well, William, you just introduced yourself. William is also my boss, so very softball questions from him. Dario, do you want to introduce yourself beyond the fact that you are the Senior Investment Manager, exactly, and Quadrivio Silver Economy Fund is a PE fund, private equity fund, so a little later stage. And you're based in Milan, and you have about 15 years experience in M&A across Italy and US.
Yeah, correct. So basically I spent my first life in M&A, and then I realized that I was missing the funny part, which was basically the investment part. So I decided to jump on the buy side and join first to special purpose acquisition vehicle, and then Quadrivio with the Silver Economy Fund, which I found pretty interesting for an area of growth in Italy for sure.
Indeed, indeed. Well, that's why we're here, after all. All right. Briefly, William, maybe do you want to start with explaining the journey that led you to invest also in the silver economy space?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges that we have in the world is the aging population. And so I think one of the challenges is it's underinvested. There's not that much money going into this space. So we look at the aging population as almost like a ticking time bomb to some extent. You have populations, if you look at China, where the working population over the next 30 to 40 years is going to get cut in half. So 1.4 billion people down to 750 million people. You think Japan's bad, it's going down like this way. But for China, because of selective birth control and because of the one-child policy, it's going to fall off a cliff. And the only way to properly serve this growing population is through technology-driven solutions. So we're early stage. We think that the bets made now are going to be very, very, very important to support the populations going forward. And we're coming at it from internet and software, like apps that treat dementia, but we also have robotics. We have a company called Labrador, where it's a little robot that carries stuff around for you because a lot of people have limited mobility as they get older. So we're looking for multiple different types of solutions to what we think will be a huge problem going forward.
And how about you, Dario? How did you get interested in the space?
Well, there is a growing trend in population, as I was mentioning, and definitely I think in Italy we are sitting on a gold treasure, which is basically the silvers. So for us the definition is people that has 50 plus years old, and there is of course a growing trend. They have a lot of spending power at the end of the day. And so we think we have to ride this opportunity. And it's also an opportunity for the country, I think, and especially for startups.
All right, thank you. And besides the demographic and the technology, basically the technology wave happening around the world, is there any other key trend to this industry that you want to maybe highlight or that's going to be influencing the investment landscape?
Yeah, I think not all elderly are the same. Every country is very, very different. So the challenges that we're seeing in China will be quite different than what we're seeing in, say, a country like Japan. Will be very different than what we're seeing in Europe, right? And the solutions will probably necessarily need to be a bit different. It's not like a one-size-fits-all. I think there's going to be, there's a general need, there's a huge trend. But the solutions that we roll out here are probably not going to be appropriate versus some other countries like Indonesia, for example, where there's a huge elderly population, but they also have a very large population of young people who can provide the services. Whereas in Japan, there are no people, really. So you need to focus on automation, things like robotics. So they have the money, and they do not have the people. And so we're looking at solutions for both types of markets, both the emerging or frontier type of market, but as well as the developed market. And it's not one size fits all.
All right, how about you, Dario? Any?
On our side, apart from technology, we are looking at some specific areas which seems not related with the silver economy, but I think they are pretty related. So, for example, let's talk about pet and vet products and service, because, for instance, there is someone doing that. Because, for instance, a lot of these people have one or more than one pet, and so and definitely they spend a lot of money on the pet. So this is an area of interest for sure, and also like something related with the fact to being active, so sports. We have seen some sports in the US, again, it's totally different from here, but if you look at pickleball, for example, which nobody knows what it is as of today, basically it's like paddle, but for more elderly people, and if you're looking at the numbers are growing a lot. It doesn't mean that it fits Italy, but it's definitely an area which is of interest.
Oh, pretty cool. I didn't know about that. We could organize a match afterwards. Well, despite all the opportunities and the growth of this sector, there's also probably challenges. Is there anyone that comes to mind?
The ecosystem in Italy for sure, especially for startups. But thanks also to this initiative, I think we are reducing the gap, for example, in Europe compared to France or in the US. Of course, in the US, you have a lot of capital to be employed. The ecosystem is totally different. And another challenge is the bureaucracy of this country. So from my perspective, an entrepreneur, it's like an hero for me. Because it's really different. So.
Yeah, how about you?
So one of the biggest challenges is actually how do you educate, communicate, and sell? Because you have almost like a double sale. Oftentimes there's the children, or there might, selling directly to the elderly people can sometimes be challenging, or sometimes you have to sell through a channel. It could be a healthcare provider or a hospital. I don't know if anybody tried to sell anything to an Italian hospital before. It's just not easy, right? So how do you reach the market is one of the biggest challenges that we've been focused on. So there's solutions. Oftentimes there's demand, but there's a long sales cycle, education cycle, and how do you make this funnel, the sales journey, something that is economical and efficient. It is a different challenge than for like a traditional consumer app that a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old might purchase. So this is one of the major challenges that we're looking to help the startups that we invest in to overcome.
Yeah, you almost have to market to two different demographics to sell one time, right? Yep. All right. And with regards to the investment strategy, I guess there's going to be very different viewpoints from an early stage VC and a private equity. What do you look at when you make your investment decisions?
Again, the fund is focused on basically healthy longevity for people of 50 plus age. We do not invest in startup unless it's basically an add-on for one of our portfolio companies, or it's, I would say, profitable. I know I'm the black sheep here, but it is what it is. Basically, we are focusing on 4 different areas that we choose to invest. The first one is prevention, which for us is like nutrition, nutraceutical, also nutrition as a tool to reverse some, for example, illness. If you are looking at diabetes type 2, for example, it's based only on nutrition, the reversal. We are also looking at everything around healthcare, so the healthcare supply chain, apart from pharma, I would say. So medical devices or certain companies that are active in healthcare services. Then we have what we call the aging in place, which for us is basically mobility and home accessibility. So everything that could help the silver move around the house. And then we have quality of life, where we have pet and vet, and also continuing education, because this basic generation would like to retire, but being active still. We do that in Italy, but also like in the US and Europe. We have an office in London and one in New York. So we can see some trends from the US coming here, I would say. And it's also interesting to interact with startups for that.
Oh, I'm going to ask you about those trends afterwards. How about you, William?
Well, I think
strategy-wise, yeah.
Yeah, we're looking for solutions that are not just for the elderly person, but also for the family. So how do you, how do you get the sale? Well, it involves the family and the elderly person. And so a lot of the solutions tie everybody in the family together, and they're very community-based, right? So that's one way that we're solving for the sales problem, is to make sure that the family is included. Yeah.
All right. Sorry for that. And speaking of what you just mentioned, the differences between the Italian market and maybe specifically the US one, and the Italian market or the European market and the global stage. If you want to kick it off, Dario?
Again, compared to the US, everything there is very, very fast, I would say, because of the capital, because of the demographic trend, and also because of the fact that in the US, everything is simple as an entrepreneur, I would say. There are definitely some areas that, for example, telemedicine, right, which in Italy are I would say, at the beginning, while in the US it's already like a developed area. So definitely I'm pretty sure that a lot of value could come from that part. And also like technology. In general, technology, I think also we'll see a lot of different devices connected to technology taking traction here in Italy.
All right, how about you, William?
Yeah, so I think most of the solutions that we're looking at are generally like a mobile phone-based type of thing. Mm-hmm. So less focused on expensive robots. And it's like low cost, solves the challenge, very much scalable, and more focused on like I guess developing and emerging, because I mean you have Japan, but we're not that focused on Japan. I mean that's next to Italy the biggest aging market. We're looking at how can you leverage technology to cover like large population countries around the world that might not have the resources that Western Europe or North America has to support the population, right? And so the amount of money, like our insurance company, it's $3 a month. It's very inexpensive, right? But you can have a huge positive impact on the population, but it needs to be scalable. It needs to be relatively inexpensive to deliver. And so that's where our focus is so far. Kind of, you can think about it like mass market. As opposed to niche.
All right. And just to wrap it up, a couple of questions on like global trends that are affecting the sectors, again, beyond the mere demographic element of it all, that would affect, of course, the investment landscape for you.
Well, I think the adoption of technology in Italy, it's not that high. I would say, especially if we look at that particular piece of population. So I think technology, has like a double meaning. On one hand, it's a challenge because there is a lack of training on people on this age. On the other hand, of course, it's a huge opportunity. And again, everything connected with telemedicine or this type of business for sure will take traction.
Yeah, so for us, economic independence is very important. So being able to have enough money or make enough money to support oneself is key. One of the knock-on effects of better health is people are living a lot longer, and they need to prepare to have enough money throughout their lifetime, because many countries around the world don't have a social safety net like you see in Europe or even to some extent the US. So there's a massive opportunity we are looking at around the fintech side, financial products designed to help people stay independent throughout their increasingly long lifespan.
All right, thank you. As a wrap up, if you had a magic wand, for example, you have, you're probably going to invest in the future, if all goes well, in companies that we're nurturing in the next stage program, right? Mm-hmm. If you had a magic wand, what would you like to have? Or how we should shape these startups to make them ready for a PE fund, for a serious round of investment?
Well, in general, I know that startup, it's all about revenues. For us, it's also about the EBITDA. Sorry for that. I think for sure we have to keep in touch with this type of initiative, because for us it's also to look something forward, right? And so for sure this is a good initiative, especially because it's like a public-private partnership, and I think it will first nurture a lot, like a lot of companies in the space, which could be of interest for us. All right,
thank you. William, wild guess, what's it going to be worth in 10 years?
Well, I think the key for us is just positive unit economics. So, PE or even startup, we're very much focused on profitability, or the ability to spend $1 and get more than $1 back. We generally are not big fans of blitz scaling, dumping money on it and using money as a weapon. So the vast majority of our companies all have positive unit economics. They're basically, they're not trying to be profitable, but they can go profitable whenever they want, right? And so we help our companies get in a position where later stage VCs are interested, or even private equity could be interested, because it's building a real business that solves a problem that people pay to solve.
All right, thank you. I think that's all for today. If you want to ask them more questions,